You don't remember the last time you were truly alone with your own thoughts. Not distracted, not scrolling, not half listening to something in the background, but actually alone. Because the moment silence appears, your hand moves automatically, almost mechanically, toward the glowing rectangle that promises connection, stimulation, escape. And in that small, unconscious movement, something inside you quietly disappears. And the scariest part? No one warned you that this disappearance would feel so normal. Part 1. The new default state. There was a time when being online was an event. You logged in, you logged out. It had edges, it had boundaries. Now it doesn't. Now being online is not something you do. It's something you are. It is the background hum of your existence, the invisible layer sitting on top of reality, quietly filtering how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you interpret the world around you. You don't just check your phone. You check who you are inside the reactions of others. Every notification becomes a tiny mirror. Every like becomes a small vote. Every view becomes a measurement of relevance. And slowly, without drama or announcement, your sense of identity begins to migrate away from your internal world and toward the external gaze of strangers. Not because you are weak, but because the system is designed that way. Part 2. The attention economy and the fragmented mind. Your attention is not just a mental resource anymore. It is currency. There are entire industries built around studying how long you look at something, how quickly you swipe away, what makes you pause for 2 seconds longer than usual. Your curiosity is tracked. Your boredom is analyzed. Your impulses are predicted. And over time, something subtle begins to happen. Your mind, which once had the capacity to stay with a single thought, begins to fracture into fragments. You start reading without finishing, watching without absorbing, listening without reflecting. You feel informed, but rarely transformed. Because information without depth becomes noise, and noise without silence becomes mental clutter. The silent cost here is not that you consume too much. It's that you digest too little. And when your thoughts are constantly interrupted, your ability to think deeply slowly erodes. Not in a dramatic collapse, but in a gradual thinning of focus, like a muscle that hasn't been used properly in years. Part 3. The illusion of connection. We are the most connected generation in human history. You can talk to someone across the planet in seconds. You can witness events unfolding in real time from anywhere in the world. And yet loneliness is rising. How is that possible? Because connection is not proximity, and visibility is not intimacy. You can be seen by thousands and still feel invisible. Online interaction often gives you the appearance of belonging without the vulnerability that real belonging requires. You can curate what you show. You can delete what feels awkward. You can craft a version of yourself that is polished, optimized, strategically acceptable. But real connection is messy. It is unscripted. It includes pauses, misunderstandings, silence, imperfections. When most of your interactions happen in environments where imperfection is edited out, you slowly forget how to tolerate the rawness of real human presence. And then, when you sit across from someone without filters or time to craft a response, you feel strangely uncomfortable. Not because you lack social skills, but because you've been trained to perform rather than simply be. Part 4. The performance of the self. One of the most subtle psychological shifts of always being online is this. You start living as if you are being watched, Even when you are alone, you begin to experience your life not just as a participant, but as an observer of yourself. You eat a meal and think about how it would look in a post. You travel somewhere and imagine the caption. You achieve something and instantly wonder how it will be perceived. Instead of fully inhabiting your experiences, you partially step outside them, evaluating their shareability. This creates a quiet split in consciousness. There is the self that lives and the self that documents. And over time, the documenting self becomes louder. You don't just feel joy, you measure it. You don't just feel sadness, you compare it. You don't just exist, you curate. The cost is subtle but profound. Presence becomes secondary to presentation. Part 5. Comparison without context. Social media collapses billions of lives into a single feed. In the span of 5 minutes, you might see someone getting engaged, someone launching a business, someone transforming their body, someone traveling to a place you've never been. But what you rarely see is the full context behind those moments. The years of failure, the debt, the loneliness, the anxiety, the support system, the privilege, the luck. Your brain, however, does not always distinguish between curated highlights and everyday reality. It simply compares. And comparison without context becomes distortion. You begin to measure your ordinary Tuesday against someone else's extraordinary milestone. You begin to feel behind in a race you never consciously entered. The silent cost here is not jealousy. It is dissatisfaction with your own pace. And when dissatisfaction becomes constant, gratitude quietly fades. Part 6. The fear of missing out and the fear of being forgotten. Always being online creates a paradoxical anxiety. On one side, you fear missing out on trends, conversations, opportunities, cultural moments. You refresh, scroll, check, just to make sure you are still in the loop. On the other side, you fear being forgotten. That if you disappear for too long, the algorithm will move on, the audience will move on, the world will move on. So you stay visible. You stay active. You stay reachable. But constant visibility comes at the cost of inner privacy. And constant reachability comes at the cost of mental rest. Your nervous system was not designed to handle continuous input from hundreds or thousands of people. Yet you expose it to that pressure daily, wondering why you feel restless even when nothing specific is wrong. Part 7. The erosion of boredom. Boredom used to be a doorway. When you were bored, your mind wandered. It imagined. It reflected. It processed unresolved emotions. It connected ideas that didn't seem related at first. Now boredom lasts seconds before it is anesthetized. Standing in line, scroll. Waiting for someone, scroll. Feeling uncomfortable, scroll. But when you eliminate boredom entirely, you also eliminate the mental space where creativity and self-understanding quietly grow. The silent cost is not that you are entertained too often. It's that you rarely sit long enough with your own mind to understand it. And without understanding, you drift. Part 8. Emotional numbness. When you consume endless streams of content, tragedy, comedy, outrage, inspiration, your emotional system adapts. It has to. If you felt every story at full intensity, you would collapse. So your brain protects you by dulling the edges. You scroll past suffering. You scroll past celebration. You scroll past conflict. Everything becomes equal in weight, equally fleeting. Over time, this constant exposure without depth can create a strange numbness. You react quickly, but feel shallowly. You comment passionately, but forget moments later. The world becomes intense, but your inner response becomes thinner. And the quiet danger is this. When everything is urgent, nothing is sacred. Part 9. Identity in the algorithm. Algorithms learn you. They predict what you'll like, what will make you angry, what will keep you engaged. And slowly, they begin feeding you a version of reality tailored to your preferences. It feels personal. It feels accurate. It feels like truth. But it is still a slice. When you live inside personalized digital bubbles, your perception of the world narrows without you realizing it. You start assuming that what you see most often is what exists most widely. And then, when you encounter perspectives outside your feed, they feel shocking, even threatening. The silent cost is intellectual humility. Because when your worldview is constantly reinforced, it becomes harder to question it. Part 10. What we're really losing. The silent cost of always being online is not simply distraction. It is not productivity. It is not even time. It is depth. Depth of thought. Depth of emotion. Depth of connection. Depth of identity. It is the slow replacement of internal experience with external stimulation. You begin to live reactively rather than reflectively. You respond to what appears instead of exploring what emerges from within. And when inner life becomes secondary, you may look functional, even successful, but feel strangely hollow. Closing reflection. This is not a call to delete everything. Not a rejection of technology. Not nostalgia for a past that cannot return. The internet is powerful. It has connected voices, built movements, educated millions. But power without awareness becomes control. The question is not whether being online is good or bad. The question is this: are you using it? Or is it quietly using you? When was the last time you experienced a moment fully without documenting it? When was the last time you allowed boredom to linger? When was the last time you sat in silence without reaching for stimulation? Because in that silence, uncomfortable, unfiltered, unspectacular, your real self still exists, waiting. And maybe the greatest rebellion in a world that demands constant visibility is not loud protest, but quiet presence. Not disappearance from the world, but a return to yourself. And that return does not trend. It does not go viral. It does not notify you. It simply feels real. If this made you reflect, sit with it for a moment before scrolling away, because sometimes the most important thing you can do is nothing at all.